It's really, so I'm replying to a video, and it's a good video, but really to the comments in there, and the idea, um, for example, that we should execute Manning, who released the Afghan logs. I guess that seems to be the rumor. I don't know if that's fully confirmed. I haven't checked up on it, but he definitely released Afghan. I mean the Apache helicopter video. The thing is, somebody was putting in there, for example, of well, what if you'd release the nuclear launch codes? He shouldn't even have the nuclear launch codes. I mean, part of this is why do these 21-year-old privates even have to see this classified stuff? It's because there's so much of it. This isn't a classified thing. This is just an impression. They're holding back from us the idea that we'd have any accurate impression of stuff that's common. It's not common for there to be Reuters employees in there, but other than that, that's an ordinary operation, right? And it's not like they want to classify any crime that happens in the military. Like there's some theory of not showing crimes in the military. Like if a soldier shot another soldier, it might, not be released because of privacy concerns and things like this, but it wouldn't be classified and people would see it and the legal system would know about it. Um, when they classify illegal stuff, it's because they're doing it a lot or want to do it or intentionally did it. And it's not just some crime of some individual, it's an institutional thing. When it's classified because it's something wrong that people shouldn't see, so called. I don't support that kind of classification. Okay? I support a kind of classification where, yeah, nuclear launch codes, nobody needs to know those. Nobody is allowed to launch nuclear weapons, so with very few exceptions, so that's just kind of goes hand in hand with that. The way I see it is, a whistleblower does take a risk, and the risk is if there's something illegal that'll justify, because the laws should help whistleblowers by judging if what they released was evidence of a crime, in which case it's their duty to report that crime. Um, and and that'd be the main criteria. If you want to clean up whistleblowing, since privates can't decide that, you need another branch of government, not investigatory, but one that does what WikiLeaks does and gets documents and vets them and looks at any document that's illegal needs to be released, and it can be redacted if there's nuclear codes mentioned in it. And it's not conservative to give this kind of leeway to the government, and even because the government is uh, uh, or the military is assumed to be conservative. That's not always the way it is. There's been a lot of communist coups where the government went communist. They kind of have a lot of socialism in the way they run military life, you see. So, it's a big mistake to think that you want the military to be able to do illegal things and hide it and punish anybody that catches them. It's not really in the long term interest of a conservative philosophy to think that way. It would actually be better if we could see things like the Apache videotapes. They should all be going through a process of release through a filter of whatever redaction necessary, waiting a certain period of time. But it's not like it's secret that we're flying Apache helicopters over Baghdad, and it's not like it has to be secret that carrying a gun means that we feel we could fire on you. It might be nice for people to know that. And I'm not saying they don't. I would rather think that would have been part of a curfew or in some sense, not a secret. And So, I think really there's not much evidence of a war crime in that Apache log, except for the one thing is when they say that van comes up to pick up dead and weapons. Did they see that? Because just moments before they knew that the wounded guy had no weapons around, that he wasn't going for one of the weapons. Now, there are weapons on the ground around there, but they seem to come straight up and deal with the bodies. If nobody went out to get weapons, then that sounds like uh, uh, misinformation injected in there to help justify continuing the engagement against people that look to have been just acting in a Red Cross kind of capacity, taking away wounded. Um, and But if that were to be reviewed and we find out, well, he released something and it's there was nothing illegal, there's no evidence for crime, he really didn't have to do that, then I would say that his punishment could not be death. It would have to be based on the actual material damage of that. In other words, if they were the nuclear codes, yeah, maybe death, that's so dangerous. But that videotape, no, it's sad that he has to risk his whole future to get us really something so mundane. It might not seem mundane with our everyday lives, but we fight war constantly now for what, centuries. So, other than the technology changing, that's war. It's mundane. It's going on every day in our world. Okay. So, it would help conservatives a lot more to help get these things out. Um, the realism of what's going on. Um, and and if it looks bad, well, maybe we should think about it. Is it bad? And figure out a way to justify why we're doing things the way we are, or changing it so that it looks and works good. And just the idea that, well, let's not solve these things. We can't figure them out. When we talk about them, we just argue. Let's just let a couple unknown people in the military and various branches of the military do it and hide it from us. Because we won't like it if we find out what they're doing. So I like it if we don't find out. And I don't find out that I don't like it. I like being fooled. It's not a world that I really want to live in. I believe that they need to classify certain information and it should be fairly rare, like nuclear codes. I think everything else is pretty much the assumption has to be from Freedom of Information. Freedom of Information Act. The assumption is all of those documents become publicly available, like on a regular calendar, like within 6 months of them being taken. And I really believe very little covert stuff is needed, but I'm into incrementalism and transition, and I can understand that, okay, maybe they'll classify certain kind of operations. If they're not regular operations, maybe operations that go on a weekly basis repeating, those should have the videotapes automatically going up like cop cars on patrol. But on the other hand, maybe if you have a special operation, you're flying a helicopter to do surveillance, okay, you don't have to release that. It's considered a special operation. It's still legit, but you don't want everybody to know where you scouted out and that you saw a bunker and you noticed a missile silo and you don't, fine. Okay, I actually think you can overtly do that stuff and put right up in the paper, look, we saw your thing, we haven't blown it up yet. I mean, keep them on the run. There's a bold, strong way of acting that. We're dealing with uneven forces now. So it affords a lot of being overt when you overpower your enemy, so much. I mean, look, the Russians still have spies in the U.S. In the Cold War, we had an enemy that, yeah, there's people speaking fluent American that could be, and there were around spies. Still are, these countries have us. That also needs a different kind of secrecy than how many Taliban, do you think there might be working in the staff of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? I guarantee you there used to be Russian spies in there somewhere. And, you know, and the Pentagon would tell you that.